Hi, I'm Shelley.
And I'm Kate, and you're listening to One Lump or Two,
the boldest breast cancer podcast yet.
Join us each week as we offer an intimate glimpse into the challenges and triumphs of facing breast cancer head-on in our 30s.
In Series 2, we're going to be joined by you, our listeners, and some experts in the field to help us all feel a little less alone and a lot more informed.
Now, let's pull back that curtain and dive in.
Hello everybody, and welcome back to another fantastic episode, if I do say so myself, of One Lump or Two. So today we welcome our first male voice of any of our episodes, except the family ones actually. Anyway, today we speak to James, who I actually met when we were both on Radio 5 Live, like the celebrities that we are, chatting about kind of going back to work after cancer. And I heard him speak and I knew he was a young person that had gone through cancer. So I basically asked the producer of the radio show to give me his number. And here we are. He agreed to be on the podcast. So he chats all about his experience with cancer as a young person and what it was like for him. And hopefully it gets more men kind of talking and opening up about this sort of stuff, about cancer and their mental health. And yeah, it was just really interesting to talk to him and hear his perspective. So hope you all enjoy.
Welcome to Your Stories. Hello, welcome back to today's episode of One Lump or Two. And today we have James with us. Hello, James.
Hello.
The first male voice on the podcast.
Yay!
So I feel like we should have given you a little trophy for that. So the floor is yours, James, if you'd like to tell us about your experience with cancer.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so I was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma in December 2020 and actually got the news on Christmas Eve, which was good fun. Had actually had an operation to remove a cyst kind of around a lymph node earlier that month, and that was kind of taken away and had a biopsy on that, and it was unfortunately found to be non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And then I started my chemo in the January 2021, and I had 6 cycles of chemo. I was given quite powerful stuff, so I was in every 3 weeks for about 5 months, and that was during COVID, so it was kind of in the middle of the COVID lockdown, which had its challenges. I mean, I like to see the positive in things, and at the time I sort of thought, well, I'm not missing out on anything because no one can do anything.
Very true.
That's such a good way to look at it.
Yeah. So that kind of kept me going. But yeah, obviously a complete shock. I was 26 when I was diagnosed. I'm 30 now. And, at that age, you kind of think you're indestructible. Never really had any kind of major health issues before. So yeah, it came as a massive shock.
I'll bet.
Especially on Christmas Eve, like Merry Christmas,
Yeah.
you have cancer.
I mean, we can be
Yeah.
Christmas buddies because I found the lump in my boob on Christmas Day. So
Oh, wow.
if we just need to find someone with a cancer-related activity on Boxing Day, we've got the Christmas trifecta.
Got it covered. Yeah. I mean, it's
So
an
if you know
interesting
anyone,
one. 'Cause-
you know.
Yeah, exactly. I remember it wasn't like an oncologist that spoke to me, it was the surgeon, and they'd obviously had the results back. So it was, I guess they were in a difficult situation because she kind of needed to let me know, and was it better to wait? But obviously I was kind of glad that I knew, and was just keen to get started, really, because when you know that you're not well, you want to get started on the road to recovery.
Did you do all of your treatment during COVID on your own in the hospital?
First session that I went in for, my partner was able to come with me.
Okay.
But after that, I had to go myself, which I don't know. I kind of got used to it, and it's like what you don't know, can't hurt you. But in some ways, it was nice because I was able to be around other people that were having treatment and talking to them. I was actually really lucky. I was treated at the Royal Surrey. I've got teenagers and young adults.
Yeah, I
clinic.
know a few people that have been treated there.
Yeah, so you might know Nick Nack-Lou. Sadly, she passed away last year. So she was actually one of the people that she'd had treatment, but was quite often around the ward when I was there. And so kind of seeing other people positive sort of around you was really good. So yeah, and then Erin Kennedy, you might have seen Erin. So
I went to school with Erin, actually.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Oh no way! It's a small
Yeah.
world.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, she's lovely. Yeah. So it's nice. I consider myself fortunate. No one's fortunate to have gone through cancer, but I feel like the sort of the support that I got there and the care was fantastic.
Yeah, I've heard it's a really amazing place. We annoyingly don't live anywhere near it. So.
No.
Not that our hospital's bad, but
no, but it doesn't. We did have to sit with 70, 80-year-old people, so we didn't get that kind of young person kind of atmosphere, which I think would have been so nice.
Yeah,
I think it must completely change the feel of the experience for you, because it's really hard when you are the youngest person in the room, because you see, and people who do talk to you make the comments about the fact that you're youngest.
Mm-hmm.
And then you also kind of feel like, oh my God, well, I'm surrounded by all of these old people who are suffering with the same kind of thing for me. And, they are much closer to death. Not that they will necessarily die because of why they're there, but, they are much closer to death. And you kind of think well, there's death over there and there's death over there. And am I going to die? There was one day I was genuinely everyone on my chemo ward was they must have been 70 plus, and they were really old. Everyone was just so unwell, and I remember sitting there and being like, this is the most depressing time of my life.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, I to get to my ward, I kind of walked past the kind of the standard cancer care wards, and I definitely kind of got that feel, and it made so I was very glad to not be there. So you take the positives from things, and I was lucky to have that care and be in a nice place. But in an ideal world, everyone would have that. Really, people. I think the reason that in Surrey it goes up to 30 is because they say, well, you're still a lot younger than the people that I'd say should get cancer, but that you'd expect to get cancer. Like you say, the people that are towards the end of life or in their advanced years, it's a completely different thing, isn't it?
Yeah, massively different. So you were diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Can you just kind of I guess in layman's terms, what sort of cancer is that?
Yep. So it's a blood cancer, and generally affects your lymphatic system. So that is glands. So for example, mine were in my neck. So sometimes if you get a cold, your glands will kind of swell up. So for me now, that's an interesting thing when that happens, because it obviously gets you worried. But I've kind of been through that now. When I had it the first time, it got me worried. You also have them in your armpits, in your groin as well. So it's one of the most common cancers for young people. So I'd never heard. Yeah, and I'd never heard of it before I got it. Might be the most common. I should know this because I've done some work with Lymphoma Action. But yeah, it's one of the most common. And I like I say, I knew nothing about it. It's not kind of got the same headline bill as leukemia and things like that. People don't really talk so much about lymphoma.
Yeah, I mean, I'd heard of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, but I didn't realize it was so common in young. Well, the most common in younger people. That's really interesting. Did you have I mean, this is probably an annoying question, because I feel like I've had this question and I've been annoyed, but did you have any idea that anything was wrong before you were diagnosed? Did you have any symptoms or?
Yes, but sort of after the fact, because there were things that, lo and behold, they are symptoms, but there weren't things that you necessarily sort of realise. So I was having night sweats, but it was in the summer, so it was warm, so I just didn't really think much of it. Hadn't really had
it's hot.
night sweats before. Yeah, exactly. And that's another thing. I've had night sweats since when I've had fevers, and you kind of it gets you worried. But to be honest, only really that. And then I was fortunate in that I had a really big lump in my neck, because if I hadn't had that, then I wouldn't have noticed it. Some people get them in their. You can't see me, but I'm pointing at my chest. They sort of get it in the chest, and obviously under your arms. Maybe you don't notice it so much there, but yeah, obviously it took a while. But because of that, I was lucky and spotted it really early. So that was what was operated on and removed, and I didn't actually have any tumours when it came to starting chemo. So all the chemo was just a case of trying to knock it on the head, overkill really.
Yeah, preventative rather than trying to get rid of it.
Exactly. But I did meet a girl when I was having my treatment who had also got non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and she had loads of tumors. She showed me her X-ray, like a lot of tumors around her chest. You know, a crazy number. But I think after 3 cycles, I think she was having the same drugs as me. After 3 cycles, her scan was clear. So that was kind of reassuring as well, because again, this was like when I was going through the treatment, and that's where having those other people that were experiencing the same thing around me was so helpful.
Absolutely, because you just want to know that other people are like experiencing the same things. Is this normal? Like, that's
a human thing, isn't it? So that gratification of okay, I'm not the only one.
You're technically got the all clear at the moment. What is happening in terms of making sure that it's not coming back? How so like obviously Shelley and I can have annual MRIs and mammograms and everything for the rest of our lives. Like what is your post-cancer care like, and making sure that things aren't coming back?
So initially I was going back every 3 months. So maybe even definitely for the first year, possibly the second year, but moved to every 6 months. And as of my last checkup, which was I think in August, I'm now going back once a year. It tends to be a case of, they give you like a physical check over, but I know that again, this is because there's such a great support system set up at the Royal Surrey, that if I did have a concern, I could flag that. But it's not just the physical stuff, it's also the kind of the emotional and well-being support that they give. There's a social group, but they regularly organise socials for people to meet up, which I always make an effort to go to, because I think it's really important for other people that are going through treatment to see someone that's come out the other side and just kind of living normal life.
Totally.
So there's that, and then they also offer sort of mental well-being support and that kind of thing, which I did take them up on when I finished my treatment, like probably about 6 to 9 months after my treatment, because it was kind of only really then that, I mean, you'll know this, but then like reality hits then, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Like, you think after treatment you're going to be like, oh my god, yeah, amazing, like I can just go back to normal, and then you're like, wait, what is normal? Like, your mind is just like so on such high like anxiety, like, oh my god, I just had like a pain in my head, like, have I got a brain tumor now?
And also that I don't know if it was the same for you, but when I was going through treatment, I had so much kind of good feeling coming my way. You know, everyone was so kind and supportive, and I kind of came to the end of treatment and I thought, like, oh, how can I ever repay that, firstly? And then secondly, you're kind of on that emotional high and you sort of think, right, I've got to do something amazing with my life now because I've just survived cancer. But actually loads of people, like, putting it frankly, loads of people survive cancer. It doesn't mean that they need to kind of find the cure to cancer, but just kind of getting back into normal life and working life. That's what I found difficult. Not like I couldn't go into that, but just on a mental level, you've been on this high and then you just get back to something that is just so normal and average. But maybe that's like the beauty of it, is you should appreciate that, but it's difficult at first.
Absolutely. I think we both felt like exactly the same. You're in this weird, like, after where you should be normal but you're not, and kind of everyone is like asking you like, oh my god, is it done, like, are you fine now? And you're like, no.
Exactly.
not
scarred.
Fine. But you spoke about like kind of normal life. Has that life kind of like changed for you now, like after cancer, do you think?
I don't know, really. I think I've got a mindset of, like, I've always liked to travel, and now my mindset is like, well, you know, might not have that much money, but I'm going to do those things because life is too short. I wouldn't say massively. Like, I genuinely just think that now I can kind of step away from it and think that actually, just living a normal life, that is actually sufficient. But coming to terms with that, it probably took me a while, to be honest.
Yeah, because I think you do feel that like pressure to do like amazing things, because I think everyone always kind of thinks like, oh, now do you know, life's so short, like you need to do this, you need to do that, like you need to live, like really live. And you're like, well, just like watching like my favorite thing on Netflix is living. But then in your mind you're like, that doesn't feel like living. Should I be like skydiving every weekend? Like, what's the deal?
Very true. My fiance would say though, I'm like very restless, so I'm always trying to do things and like just always want to have plans and stuff. So, but that's not really cancer that's caused that. That's just what I was like anyway. So
That's just your personality.
exactly. So I've definitely not slowed down. But what I did do is when I came to the end of my treatment, I sort of decided I really wanted to do something at some point to raise some money for charity. So I did a half marathon last year for Lymphoma Action.
Amazing.
And
Well done.
that was amazing. Like raised loads of money, over £3,000.
Wow.
And that kind of gave me a little bit more closure as well, because I knew I wanted to do something like that, and then I did it, and then it kind of helped me to be a bit more like, I know obviously I'm here talking about cancer, but it allowed me to sort of put it behind me a little bit more in a way.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's always with you, and but I think you should view it as a positive. Like you say, you can justify sitting and watching Netflix because you can.
Yeah, exactly. So true. Well, congrats on the half marathon.
Yeah,
Like,
well done.
that's no easy feat anyway, like let alone after cancer. Like there's me and Kate, like the whole reason this podcast started is because we kind of started running together. We tried to do like Couch to 5K.
Oh, nice.
And then wow, you say nice, but we didn't really do it in the end.
Just
I think
the couch part, but not the 5K
yeah,
part.
basically, yeah.
Brilliant.
We ran
Now we
a
do-
bit, didn't we?
Yeah, now we just do like couch to local coffee van and back.
We don't even run, we just like have a slow meander.
Yeah.
We get a coffee and a cake and then a slow meander back.
But we're not runners.
Sure.
That's the conclusion we've come to. So I was a runner before cancer. Like I've always run. We went into lockdown, the pandemic. I ran like that one time a day we were allowed out of our house. I was running for like
Made the most of
3 or 4 hours. Like
Wow.
You're only
was
allowed
just-
out for half an hour, Kate.
I know.
Yeah, you don't want to admit that.
I was
Yeah.
in the field. I wasn't coming back. And now I just can't run. But I can't run because, and this is the same as Shelley, like the medications we're on is altering our bones and stuff so much that like it's just physically painful to be a human at this point, like just to get through the day. So I think we initially probably beat ourselves up a little bit about the fact that we couldn't even run 5K, and I think now we've just embraced it. And
Yeah. We kind of got there. Well, I think we probably the most we ever ran was probably about 4K.
With anything like that, it's it's what you can do. And I was really lucky as well. Again, like see the positives, but I was really lucky because my treatment wasn't particularly intrusive, and there were other people that were having treatments that sort of affected them physically. But for me, like I'd had my operation, and then I felt a bit rubbish for a week and a half, and then I'd start to get better. And I'd go out and do really short runs, very slow, but I was able to do that, and it helped me like with my sleep. It helped me with my mental health. That was why I wanted to do the fundraising run, because it was something that had kind of been a constant. Like you say, it's not one size fits all. Not everyone can do that, and I wasn't sort of doing it at the time to sort of make a point, or I can do this. It's because I knew it was going to help me in the long run. I think this was Shelley when we were on the radio together, talking about sort of going back to work, and I chose to go back. So I'd had my treatment every 3 weeks, and then after a week and a half, I was then going back to work. And it was because I knew in myself that I was going to be able to sleep better and be kind of less stressed about the idea of being away from work. And my employers at the time, they were so supportive, but so they weren't pushing me into doing that. But I felt like I needed to do that in myself. Even then, like towards the end of the treatment, it kind of it has like a culminative effect, and it was getting harder and harder to do that towards the end. So
yeah,
you just got to have a flexible approach to things, I guess. To take each day as it comes, really. If for anyone that maybe is going through treatment that's listening, there's no expectation on you, basically.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That's the hard bit, isn't it? The fact that there is no expectation. Like any expectation is most likely coming from you putting it on yourself. And like I know I did that a lot. Like, well, I used to do this and I used to do this, and I'd make myself feel worse about the fact that I couldn't do the most basic simple things. I mean, I had dose dense chemotherapy, so it was every 2 weeks. So I don't understand that feeling all right bit that you got, because I never had that. I just felt shit, felt more shit. I think we've mentioned it before, but my mum would come over and she'd take me shopping. One day I was like, I just need to come with you. I need to get out. And we only went out to go buy bread and milk, and it took us like 2 hours because I just had to sit down on the floor in Sainsbury's. And I was sat on the floor in Sainsbury's staring at the cakes because I needed to choose a cake for my daughter's birthday. And I didn't have the decision making capabilities to
Mhm.
choose a cake. I didn't even have the energy to stand up to look at the shelf. I was just looking at the bottom shelf like, she doesn't want any of these, and I don't want any of these, and I don't want to stand up, and I don't want to make any of these decisions or think about this. And like, I was really beating myself up in that moment about the fact that I can't even choose a cake for my daughter's birthday. And it was nothing to do with choosing a cake. It was the fact that I'd already got up, got dressed, got in the car with my mum, walked from the car into the shop, and done a ridiculous amount of stuff for somebody that had had chemotherapy 48 hours ago. And then my body went, nah.
Like,
it,
just don't push yourself, you know.
Yeah.
But it's I can imagine it must be so. Well, I can't imagine. I actually can't imagine at all going through that with a child as well. But I can understand how, yeah, maybe you did feel more of a sense of expectation because you've got to be big tough mum.
Yeah.
That sort of bats these things off. But like, you shouldn't have that mindset at all.
No. And it, like, I think a couple of weeks later, like after I was so exhausted and I kind of like just let everything go, I was like, oh yeah, no, I can just sit on the floor. And then I went to the shop a couple of weeks later with my friends, and we went to Co-op, and we bought a Co-op meal deal for lunch and just sat on the floor in Co-op and ate the meal deal for lunch in Co-op. And the staff were like, you all right?
People must have been looking
"Yeah,
at
fine,
you like,
thanks."
what the fuck are you doing?
I know, but I just didn't have the energy to go home, and I was hungry.
You needed the energy from the food, so it's fair enough.
Yeah.
Is it fair enough?
Don't make me feel bad, Shelley. God.
No, obviously, do what you want. Imagine if I would have walked into the Co-op and been like, sorry.
What the fuck is that woman? We wouldn't be friends right now.
Yeah, I wouldn't have replied to your Facebook message if that's the
You're like,
case.
were you the one I saw in Co-op? And no thanks.
No. James, you mentioned that you have you had a partner and you now have a fiance. I'm assuming it's the same person.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Just
Okay,
mix
good.
them. I just hate using the F word because just I feel like crap.
Were they your fiance before you got cancer?
No. So that's come since. And actually, we'd only been together about a year and a half, maybe, before I then got diagnosis, and we'd only been living together for about 3 months.
Oh wow! So that's
it's quite a
like
lot.
that is a lot. Like when you've just started living together.
Yeah.
Did it like change your relationship at all? Like, do you think it kind of made you stronger, or?
Yeah, I definitely think so. Like it was kind of a weird situation. Well, not weird, but you know, she was a sort of caregiver, so I had these, I can't remember what they're called. I can never remember what they're called, but I had these little injections that I used to have that would kind of improve your white blood cell count.
Filgrastim.
Something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sounds about
yeah.
right.
Yeah, we had to have
Yeah.
And I hate needles. And I mean,
Mhm.
I couldn't inject someone. I couldn't inject my partner. I mean, I guess needs must, right? But she had to do that because it was COVID. So she had to do all of the caregiving throughout that period. And I remember the first chemo cycle I had like a reaction. So I had to go off to A&E, and she couldn't come in with me to A&E. But yeah, it's just really, really difficult for her not to kind of have that access. But yeah, also we hadn't been together for that long. I always felt like, so we got engaged last year, we might have only been together for 5 years, but most couples probably wouldn't go through that until they've been together for like 40 years.
Oh my god,
so.
yes, so true.
Yeah, we had similar. So we're a bit of a weird situation. We were living together before we got together because Shay moved in during the pandemic so that we could live as a bubble and share a car and keep the kids safe and everything. But we'd only been together for, I want to say like 9 months when I was diagnosed. We've been living together a little bit longer. And then we got engaged while I was in treatment because it was cancer that changed his mind, which makes him sound like an absolute fucking saint. But, you know, doesn't get all the glory here.
No.
If I hadn't have got cancer, I don't think we'd be getting married because I think we'd kind of like.
Do you not
set up-
think?
No,
That's
You
really
decided that you
interesting.
wouldn't.
Yeah,
it wasn't
yeah,
for
it
you.
wasn't like top of either one of our lists. I think we were just glad and grateful that we'd finally got our acts together and got together and stopped dicking around after like a stupid amount of years. So it wasn't a thing. And like even when he did propose, like the first thing I said to him was, what the fuck are you doing? Like it wasn't ever a thing that I had considered was actually going to happen. So I think it's really nice when things like that come about, because you've been through this really shit life experience that most people would only deal with that much shit across you know, a much longer relationship time. I do think it really like solidifies that bond.
I mean, don't get me wrong, it still took me 2 years to get around to doing it, but
But
yeah,
you
my
did it.
mind was made up. Yeah. I know.
Well, in
I-
sickness and in health, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
And I think it's hard to see that you could ever be with someone else having gone through that with someone. So that's not why I proposed to her. She was like, sorry, you're the only choice. No, but yeah, obviously it's a lot to go through with someone, especially during COVID, where they're like the only person that can be around you.
Do you think that she was communicating honestly throughout the whole thing with you about like how hard she was finding it, or do you think there was an element of her holding back a bit and trying to protect you because you were the one going through it?
Yeah, no, I feel like she definitely would have been holding back. I mean, it probably helped that like when I was at my worst, I just needed to sleep. So I sort of took myself away. And I don't think I was like a sort of huge hindrance, but obviously going through that, I think it probably got worse towards the end because I kept my hair for quite a long time and then shaved it all off. And then when it was like when my eyebrows fell out, then I kind of didn't look like myself. And I think sort of around that time, she probably found that quite difficult. If anything, it was more difficult for well, I say this, it's not fair on her because she can't comment, but probably harder like for my sister and for my parents who I'm close to, and they couldn't have that access. So she also had the responsibility of having to communicate to them how I was doing. So that was tricky as well. But one thing that I did do, and again, if anyone's this is not just advice for cancer, this is advice for anything. I set up a WhatsApp group, which was just a closed group where only I could post. I think Amy might have been able to post as well, but essentially this was one way. So it meant that I could put an update in there and then I wasn't getting loads of messages from people, because it's nice when the people care, but when you just come out of treatment, the last thing you want to do is reply to loads of messages.
It's overwhelming.
And
It is
repeat
really
yourself so many times, because like especially if you're the only person in the room and you're the only person that's heard the updates, the news, the plans, and then you're coming back out and having to go and tell your mum and your dad, your partner, your friends, work if you're choosing to tell work, you know, all of those conversations are mentally draining when all you want to do is just put out once into the world, like, gotta have this happen, go do with that what the rest of you want. That's on you.
Exactly. See, if you're a celebrity, it would be easy, wouldn't it? Because you just tweet it and
everybody knows.
Everybody knows. Yeah.
So true.
Not that famous yet, sadly. If I do enough podcasts, maybe.
Oh, there you go. Have you been on other podcasts?
No, I haven't. I actually.
I was going to say, which one?
Funnily enough, the closest I've done is I did some training videos basically, and it was like how to sort of cope with a colleague that's seriously ill, how to cope with that, you know, how to respond to them, how you should behave around them, and and it was done in a podcast format. So I did that, but that was obviously very different and a bit more formal. But
yeah, we're not formal.
No, we're good.
We've kind of like briefly touched on this, James, via our very limited messages because I'm so shit at replying. But do you talk about death a lot? Because I do, and Kate does, and everyone thinks we're so weird. But I
hence
enjoy it.
my little rant earlier where I used the word death multiple times.
Yeah. I don't know. Probably yes, because you experience something that kind of, I say it's close to death. That sounds quite dramatic, doesn't it? But
that's not dramatic. I say that all the time.
Yeah.
Maybe I am dramatic.
Actually had a near-death experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a religious person, so I'm probably a bit more, I don't know, frank with it. It's like, yeah, I'm going to die, and that's going to happen at some point. It might happen soon. It might happen. Like even just little things. Like I think, well, actually, it could just get hit by a car tomorrow. So yeah,
yeah.
like you could, couldn't you? So So yeah, definitely. But then that's the whole thing of do things, get on to do things if you can. Yeah, it's not like massively changed my outlook. This is the whole point. This is the whole sort of problem that I faced straight after coming out of treatment. Is I've got to do everything I do has to be amazing now. But now I just have a normal job and do normal things. But yeah, like definitely, I'm sure I think I probably did it before, to be honest. So it probably hasn't changed much in me. But
Yeah, we talk about it a lot. All of our like birthday cards to each other are literally like, I'm glad you didn't die.
Yeah,
but I do have friends where I have that kind of humour with them. Yeah, I mean, like my partner probably doesn't say that sort of thing to me, but yeah, or my family. But yeah, definitely. I mean,
I relish in the fact that it makes my family feel quite uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I think it's because we went through it on such a different level because they couldn't be in the room with me at any point. And like we've talked on the podcast about when I genuinely did think I was going to die and I still didn't tell them because I'd have had to go to the hospital and die on my own, and I wasn't ready to make that choice and being in that situation. So instead I just kind of gathered them all at my house in case I did die, and then didn't die, woke up the next day and just immediately started making jokes about the fact that, oh well, I didn't die, despite the fact that I hadn't told anyone I thought I was dying.
Wow.
Everybody
now that is a near-death experience, isn't it? That is,
everybody now is just like, whenever I mention it, they're all a bit awkward because I've come to terms with the fact that that's where I thought I was at, and very quickly realized that there was nothing I could do about the situation other than go to hospital and potentially die on my own. And I didn't talk to them about it until the podcast came out, like Christmas last year, and I was like, oh, I should probably tell my mum and dad that that's what that day was all about, and that's why I'm so like blasé with like the death comments whenever it comes up in conversation.
Yeah, that's fair enough. That I was kind of never at that stage because I had kind of knocked it on the head really early on, but yeah, still got a dark sense of humour.
I feel like everyone who's had cancer has a dark sense of humour.
I think so. Most of the people I've met.
Part of the parcel, yeah.
Mm-mm.
If you can't laugh, you'll just cry.
Exactly right. Yeah.
I do cry
a lot
though. Yeah. I cry all the time. Okay, cool. I don't know if I have any more questions.
I don't think I have.
So we're going to finish on the topic of death, are we? So
yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
And on a nice positive.
So we're all gonna die. We might die tomorrow. The end. No, come on. Let's end on a positive. When's the
That is next May.
Amazing.
So,
exciting.
Yeah, clock is ticking.
Yeah.
That's so exciting.
That is
Yeah.
exciting.
We'll keep an eye out for our invites.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's just gonna be. I think we're like my
it's just
partner and I
close. It's
slightly
just close
talk-
family.
Yeah, just close family. Yeah.
Wait till it goes down gently, James.
I think we're torn because she's sort of like, oh yeah, fairy tale wedding, and I want all these lovely things because obviously that's what you want for a wedding. I'm like, yeah, I just want to have loads of booze so everyone can get drunk and have a good time.
Nice.
So hopefully it'll be somewhere in between, and everyone will be
compromise. Happy.
Yeah.
And one cancer joke on the day as well.
Yeah,
Oh yeah. I mean, well, I've got a speech, so
Well,
absolutely.
exactly. You've got to weave that into the speech. Like, I feel like a lot of your relationship was like when you had cancer. So.
Yeah.
It was. I mean, I expect my best man to deliver the goods when it comes to that as well.
Amazing. Yeah. Thank you for taking the time and chatting to us.
Yeah, we really appreciate it.
Thank you for being the first male voice.
Yeah, I should have said about that really, about how men don't speak about it and da. But you know, if you're doing intro,
we can add that in if you want.
Just be like really stilted. Just sound awful.
But you're right though, men do not talk about it. So hopefully this will go out. And to be honest, I don't know how many male listeners we even have.
But that's why I always say yes to things whenever people ask about it. Because I know that loads of men don't talk about it. So
yeah, thank you so much for joining us. Thanks so much, James.
Thanks so much, James.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
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 If you want to share your story, we'd love to hear from you. Whether you've had cancer, you know someone that's had cancer, or you just love listening to our voices, slide into our DMs on Instagram at onelump_or2.
Or email us at onelumportwopod@gmail.com.
See you next week.
Bye!